So this is the head. That area is the neck. That's the trunk. And that area is the tail. Those are the eyes. The nostrils, which are called the nares. That external portion of the ear is called the pinna. And the passage that leads to the eardrum is called the external auditory meatus. That right there is the umbilical cord.
It's the thorax. This is the abdomen. Yay.
That area there is the thorax, and that's the abdomen.
I just said that. That's the
And there was a layer of skin on the fetal thing, which is called the epitracheum. Yeah. The area from the sternum to the chin is called the xiphoid process. And the connective tissue that was ripped through when the pig was skinned was the superficial fascia, and the muscle layer that was directly under the skin is the cutaneous maximus. So those two muscles are the triceps. This whole thing is the spinal deltoid, and that thing is the acromiodeltoid. So the pectoralis major was a muscle that had already been bisected, but that was somewhere in that area, and that's the biceps. Little white stringy thing is the facial nerve.
So this is the ventricle.
And that right there is the masseter.
Yeah,
And that is a little lymph node. And that's the mandibular gland. So that area is the hard palate. That's the soft palate. That's the oropharynx, which is the opening to the nasopharynx. Right in there is the esophageal opening. That is the glottis, and the little covering thing that closes over it is the epiglottis. And that's the tongue. Pharynx. That's the thyroid. That's the trachea underneath the thyroid. Those are the thymus glands. That's the vagus nerve. And that is the esophagus.
So this is the aorta. Oops. And that's the inferior vena cava. And then, so these are the uterine horns. Okay.
The little swirly things.
The little swirly things. And then you have these little ball things. That's ovary. This little tiny thing.
Oh, that's tiny.
And then these little small crumpled up tubes, those are the fallopian tubes.
Okay.
They're really tiny. So fallopian tubes over the uterine horn.
Okay.
And then it's the same on the other side. And then urinary bladder, urinary arteries, umbilical cord, and then so you see where the uterine horns are? They meet up with the body of the uterus, which you can see underneath. So you see how so this is the body of the uterus. He said he'll point up here.
Okay.
That's what he said the other day. And then this is the vagina, just down here.
Okay.
It's it's not really clear. Just this area, and then it all comes out, and then I don't know. Then this is still, and then this is the urethra. So urethra, then down here's the vagina,
and it all comes out the urogenital
opening, and then these are the, I forget the name.
Labia.
Labia. Yeah.
So that little lumpy thing that
it's the flaps, right?
it looks like
so if it's pointing to the outside, it's a labia.
Well, the labia is are the flaps, and then the opening is the urogenital opening.
Okay. That's the penis. That's the urethra. Those two things are ductus deferens. That is the bulbourethral glands. That is the urinary bladder with the two urinary arteries in red. That is the umbilical vein. Right there, the little ball thing is the testis. And the thing that's surrounding it is the epididymis. And shows the gubernaculum.
I don't know, but that doesn't make sense because he said the gubernaculum attaches to the testis, and it should be just a little flap of skin. So I don't know really where it would be. What's this?
Lung tissue, more lung tissue, the diaphragm muscle, and the heart. There, that's still the diaphragm muscle, but if you pull that up and reflect that up, this is the liver. So then under the liver, You want to do the stomach? Okay, so the esophagus right there leads into the stomach, and right there's a hard thing. That's the cardiac sphincter, and up in the top of the stomach is the cardiac region. The central area of the stomach, the middle area, no, right there, that's the fundus. And then right there, that hard thing is the pyloric sphincter, and that's the pyloric region. And this leads into the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. That right there is the spleen. That's the gallbladder. And that is the cystic duct. So then this is the small intestine. Right there where it looks like it's still intestine. There. That's the colon. That green thing is the cecum. And that is the ileocecal sphincter, which leads into the ileum part of the small intestine. And between the duodenum and the ileum is the jejunum. Got it?
Pancreas.
And that's the pancreas, which contains cells called islets of Langerhans. Kidney, it's attached to that thing by the renal vein and renal artery. And right there is the ureter, which leads down into the urinary bladder. Left ventricle, the right ventricle, the left auricle, the right auricle, and that's the coronary artery. Pulmonary trunk,
The ductus arteriosus.
That is the ductus arteriosus right there, which connects the pulmonary trunk to the aortic arch. That's the aortic arch. That right there is the left subclavian artery, and that is the brachiocephalic trunk. The carotid arteries, there's one on the other side too. That's the internal jugular vein and the external jugular vein. And the 4 jugular veins come together to form the superior vena cava, which then goes down under that away. And the 2 carotid arteries come together to form the brachiocephalic trunk.